Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the FedTrends Show. Let's start with GovCon in a minute. So news from around GovCon. I noticed an award this week. There was a $300 million award out of the Development Finance Corporation. So here's why I bring that up. There are a lot of agencies that are what I'll call less common agencies. Some of them are independent, some of them are quasi-independent. But there's a lot of money and a lot of projects being launched out of these organizations, and I've had a lot of customers over the years in some of these organizations. They were great projects. I used to support a group called the James Madison Foundation. It was a small organization, but it was great for me for the size my company was at the time. So my note on this was, now they got 40 bids when they put this out, the Development Finance Corporation, but there's a lot of them, whether it's FDIC, CFTC, the Farm Credit Administration, there's a lot of them. Here's my kind of feeling about those. Number one, they're easier to learn. Their missions are usually a little bit more streamlined, so you're not trying to learn a giant cabinet level agency all at once. The second thing is that you often have less competition. That doesn't mean always. I mean, Development Finance Corporation just got 40 some bids for one IDIQ. So there's still competition, but I've found that it's a little bit easier to get into some of those places. What I will say, though, is that there is limited upside sometimes. It's very common that a lot of these organizations will have a software contract, an infrastructure contract, a PMO contract, and then it gets into mission services, and it just depends on how large the organization is as to whether that's really fruitful or not. So just a note, pay attention. It's not always, it doesn't have to be all HHS, DHS, or DOD to be able to find programs that can be really exciting and help your company. Now, let's go over to another topic. I've been talking to some 8A companies recently, and several of them have been approached by GSA, those that are GSA Schedule holders, about GSA creating a new 8A pool on the GSA Schedule. So, at a minimum, what this means is that as a customer trying to buy something off of GSA Schedule, there's now going to be a box somewhere in eBuy where you'll be able to click and say, I want to send this out to all 8As, and it will push it out, the procurement out to a pool of verified 8As. The GSA is asking all of the 8As to send in financials from the past year so that they can verify that they are still eligible for 8A awards. Now, what does that really mean? Some of it depends on how they implement this. How easy is it to use? Is it going to be used a lot? Are there going to be training? Are customers going to know that this is even an option? But at a minimum, I think it comes down to what it probably means, what it might mean, and probably not. So what it probably means, it's probably easier for the government to push a bid to all 8As. It also probably means that there are going to be more opportunities for all 8As that have a GSA schedule. So more chances for opportunistic bids, more opportunities to see something come out and decide that it fits their capabilities or their customer set, and they're going to take a shot at it. Now, on the maybe side, depending on how this is used and how much it is used, it might mean more competition. I've bid things on GSA Schedule as an 8A before, and the government's received 3 bids. Sometimes they've received 50 bids. This might mean more competition if the government starts to use more of a send it out to all the 8As as opposed to limited competitions. You could see more competition on each individual deal. It's very common that I've seen, the government would have to go out and look to see who's 8A on GSA Schedule. They might have to push out a sources sought. They might do an RFI. They might go do open source research and then pick a limited list of companies and send the procurement directly to them. So maybe we'll see more competition on each opportunity, but again, that just depends on how much agencies really use that new 8A pool. Another thing that it might mean is there might be less of those sources sought and requests for information if the government already knows that there is an 8A schedule pool that has a bunch of companies in it that have been verified to be 8A. maybe they won't bother to do a sources sought. They will just assume that there would be a decent number of companies on GSA schedule that would fulfill their procurement requirement, and they'll just send it out. Again, I don't know. We're going to have to watch and see what happens, but it's important to pay attention to the dynamics of how the GSA schedule vehicle might change because of this. The other thing that might happen is this might be a better list of current 8As if they have to recertify to stay on that list. The documentation that I saw was not very clear as to whether it's going to be an annual recertification process, or are companies going to have to recertify only when they renew their schedule. It didn't say anything about that. So at a minimum, for a while, when the pool is first released, you're going to know that everybody's actively 8A on that list. And within the couple of year timeline of when they have to renew their schedule, they are likely still 8A. Now for probably not. What does this probably not mean? It probably doesn't dramatically change the value of existing vehicles. This probably doesn't really degrade the number of opportunities that are going to hit a GSA Stars or any other vehicle with an 8A pool. Not dramatically. It also probably doesn't dramatically change the value of a GSA schedule. If you wanted one before, you probably still want one, and if you didn't before, it was probably for some other reason that you didn't have the qualifications or labor categories or past performance yet. Probably didn't have to do with the opportunities hitting the vehicle. So I don't see dramatic changes there. The other thing I also think it probably doesn't completely eliminate is that scenario where an opportunity goes out to a limited distribution of companies, so you don't necessarily see that the opportunity was released. I think that's still going to happen. There's still going to be the opportunity for the government to send a procurement to a smaller group of people. This isn't going to eliminate it, but it might give you a little bit of added visibility into the opportunities in the 8A domain. Those are just some thoughts. We'll have to see how this is implemented and see what happens over the course of the next year. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll have an episode next week. And as always, if you have questions, you have comments, or there's a topic you want to hear discussed on the show, please send us an email. Thanks so much.